if you liked Do a Powerbomb, Murder Falcon, Extremity, all the creator-owned stuff that Dan's worked on, I think it's worth checking out. And just on a fun art level, I think Riley's stuff is really good on it.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. Eyes to approve, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Del Bush.
Dal.
Del.
W. Dal Bush.
Okay, Dal, I have a great new product line
Okay.
for us to carry that I think we would kind of corner the market on it in Chicago, at least.
I like cornering markets.
Popcorn buckets.
Comic book popcorn buckets?
Specifically superhero movie popcorn buckets, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
How would we source them?
I know a guy.
Really? Okay.
He's got a handful.
A handful.
He's got about 10.
Several handfuls. Several arm ones.
He had more, but he gave a bunch to Molly Jane when he moved.
Wow. I mean, that cuts in your profit margin right there.
Yeah, right?
It's giving away stock. I see how it is.
There may be a Taylor Swift popcorn bucket in this mix as well.
She's got a little golden book and a graphic novel, so yeah.
Yeah.
Comic book character now.
We are not carrying that Taylor Swift. Who is Taylor Swift graphic novel? We're not carrying that.
The least essential question in modern America is, who is Taylor Swift?
So
if you gotta ask that,
this is where it's gone too far.
Why don't you know who Taylor Swift is yet?
Little golden books are a wonderful reading resource for younger readers.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 2 spinner racks filled with the geekiest ones, all the superheroes we can get our hands
less
on.
filled with it all the time. They're constantly seeing empty pockets.
God, I sold like 4 to a guy yesterday.
Doing what we can.
And Star Wars, some Star Trek, and a couple of ancillary ones, like some Chicago-themed ones.
I mean, Pokemon, TMNT, Super Mario.
Yeah.
Pokemon for sure. Like those, I think there's only like 2 that we can get, and they sell like crazy.
Now, they're kind of getting out of control.
They do a lot of
with the subject matter.
really niche Avatar The Last Airbender ones. Like I get some of them, like, oh, it's a meme. Does a meme need a $6 little golden book?
Here is what I think is a point in society where, literally, I started about that saying we've gone too far. Here's where we've gone too far. And if this is a little golden book, we are 100% not carrying.
We'll see about that going.
And even if somebody special orders it, I might just say, no, you don't get the Kelsey brothers.
I knew that was going to be the one.
Little golden
Why
book.
not them?
Why them?
Why not them?
One of them is famous because he's dating Taylor Swift. The other one is famous because his brother is dating Taylor Swift.
I mean, arguably he's more famous because he's dating Taylor Swift, but he was famous for being a Super Bowl winning football player.
Okay, so how many other Super Bowl winning football players have little golden books?
Probably a few.
I
bet you Tom Brady
think
has one. I bet you he does.
Oh, I don't know. I've never seen it offered.
And I wonder if Mahomes had one before the Kelsey brothers.
You know who's definitely not going to get one?
Who?
Colin Kaepernick.
Probably. Well, he's going to let AI make it for him.
I was just going to say it's going to be completely AI generated. That is a story.
Oh my God.
That is ridiculous.
That is a guy who had so much goodwill and then just completely squandered it.
Completely squandered it.
In the dumbest way possible.
Luckily, I can't remember the name of its company.
He's eliminating the barriers to making comics. What barriers? Who's stopping you from making comics?
Yeah, literally anybody can make a comic.
Oh
They
my
do.
God.
Look at our local section.
It's true.
But hooking up with the guy who formed, 2 other venture capitalist online platforms? I forget what.
They
and
just,
honestly don't care.
They put AI in their proposal, and they had Colin Kaepernick, and they went to venture money people, and they got money for it. It's a dumb idea, and it's never.
But I mean,
be
this guy
profitable.
already started like 2 other large things, like PayPal or something else. Not PayPal, but like the main investor is a big name in these circles. Quite frankly, you can't lose my attention faster than by saying the phrase venture capitalist.
It's not great.
I would rather read fantasy comics.
Maybe. And you don't like fantasy comics.
See, that's my point.
Oh man.
At least they're
it's a really low
comics
bar.
by people.
Yeah.
in theory.
Several people sometimes.
I don't know. The Colin Kaepernick thing is ridiculous, and I just thought I'd mention it as a look at what society's come to.
Yeah, we've definitely...
AI-generated graphic novels about the Kelsey brothers. What is next?
I sometimes see in the little golden book section of the catalog every month ones where I'm like, maybe, like, nothing I would ever think, A, we should order, B, I should have a discussion with Patrick about it, C, I should have an argument with Patrick in favor of getting these because I feel so strongly. But it's like, I don't know, maybe we could sell a Zendaya one. I don't know. Like, I don't care. And the thing is, like, let's say you're ambivalent about it, but you think there might be some fans, or you think you could maybe move 2 or 3 Zendaya Little Golden Book biographies. You make $3 on them. What are you talking about here? $9 in profit? Who cares?
Yeah.
Sell other books that you feel strongly about.
What is a property do you think that you would be in favor of, and you'd have to argue with me to get me to carry it for a Little Golden Book?
That's a really good question, because I think most of the stuff that I would normally be a fan of that I would think we could sell, not just because I'm a fan of it, I think you would also be like, yeah, I can see the potential of that. I can't think of really
like we did Transformers ones. We'd do more if they did more.
Yeah, I mean, there's if they did like a Gwenpool one or a Power Pack one, I don't think you'd be like, no, I don't see the value. Like, I think you'd be like, okay, it's a comic book thing, let's do it.
We'll get any Marvel.
Right.
We'll get
Right.
we would stock the Venom one.
So, I mean, outside
as
of that,
opposed to the idea of that as I would be.
I mean, if there was like a Kamen Rider one or a Transformers one, I don't think you'd be like, there's no way we'd sell that. I think you'd be like, because we carry the Kamen Rider manga, like, and we sell that.
Yeah.
So I can't really think of anything
and figures.
I would personally be a fan of that I thought had like a business value to it.
I would love it.
Cross your arms and be like, no way.
If they made Knights of the Dinner Table Little Golden Books.
You'd have to learn to draw better.
I
it's
know.
so mean to say to Jolly Blackbird.
I know you personally wouldn't buy them because you wouldn't need them. It's like those
I might buy them.
Those Mighty Marvel My First Board Book reader books.
Sure.
They made a Falcon one. That's amazing. I love that they did.
Yeah.
I don't own it.
No. See,
I don't have to own it.
This is something
but I love it.
Rarely talked about, maybe, but I
love that it exists.
I think I've talked about it to you a few times, probably on the podcast more than once. The things I like, thankfully, in the U.S. market, do not get a ton of exploitation. So I'm not tempted by all these things that I'd be like, oh, I've got to get that because they made it featuring my favorite property. Like,
you're right. There's not a whole shelf of Gwenpool stuff up there.
But that's the thing. That's the Gwenpool stuff. It's one shelf. If you were like, I'm a fan of the X-Men, you would need an entire wing of your house to house all of the X-Men stuff that they make and have made over the last 40 years.
God forbid you're a Kiss fan.
And you've had the issue
No, I
in the
mean,
past.
God would forbid it.
Knights in whose service? Santa's service. The Captain America thing, where you have to be a lot more sparing with what you get because they just make so much Cap stuff.
Do you remember?
Falcon has now too much stuff made for him for you to consider getting everything.
Do you remember 2 residences ago? My Captain America display case.
Your Cap cabinet
that had so many things.
Sure. That eventually you were like, because once upon a time, Captain America stuff wasn't made in abundance.
And I would search eBay and find the weirdest stuff.
Yeah. And
like, it had to be licensed and mass produced.
Right, you weren't just getting like some knockoff thing. But the amount of stuff was not a huge amount of things. Nowadays, in any given month, there's God knows how much Captain America stuff is being produced by Marvel licensees.
What is it with Captain America and Chicago comic store owners? Because James Nurse from First Aid is a huge Cap fan. Mark Tower from Dark Tower has a huge Cap collection, and he always would say to me that his is bigger than mine, and I would say, yeah, I don't buy that stuff anymore.
Close your eyes and picture the Chicago flag. White, red, blue, star. So, Captain America. I just described Captain America to you.
I'm sorry, mine has CM Punk fists on it and lightning bolts.
Okay. I think that's why.
But the United States flag has more Captain America reference.
See, it doubles up.
Oh.
Yeah.
There currently are 2 Caps.
That's why those California comic shop owners love the Ursa Major character.
Oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Just works.
And are furious that Bear Country is now the Iron Savages.
I think a lot of people are furious for a lot of different reasons about that change.
That's fair.
Taz, for sure. Oh, man.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what part of the country they're from anymore.
No. There was a bit on
Oh, don't
Dynamite this week.
Don't go into wrestling now.
I'm good. It's very short, and you missed it, so I'm going to recap it. But there's a point where Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong was putting
Had to wake up Tomohiro Ishii.
Ishii.
Ishii? Do you say the I? The second I? There's two I's. You say the second I?
Yeah, I'm never going to get through this
Ishii?
if you keep doing RJ City. Was putting a Boston Crab on both Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly simultaneously, and Taz was trying to explain it as two Boston Crabs, or like a Boston Crab and a New Hampshire Crab. And like, there's no response, and Taz is like, because it's two Boston Crabs. And so Excalibur's like, yes, but two Boston Crabs would be just two Boston Crabs. It wouldn't be a separate place. It's like you said, two New England Crabs. And Taz just got very sniffy with like all right, I'm just trying to have fun. Excalibur's like, no having fun tonight.
Would it be a Boston's crab?
And it was such a AEW dark digression where like Taz is trying to tell a joke and Excalibur's like, let me explain why the construction of your joke was incorrect and therefore not funny.
No, see, I think it can work because one Boston crab is a Boston crab, but if you do two Boston crabs, it's a different thing. So two Boston crabs equal one New Hampshire crab.
That's not the way Taz told it.
Well, he's from a different part of the world than I am.
P.S.
Red Hook.
P.S. FTW.
PSFTW.
Anyway, let's get back on track, Patrick.
There's no track to get back on.
Oh, no. Then
Yeah,
let me keep talking about wrestling.
At the point that I press record,
All in,
I
2025.
didn't even
It's
have
going to be in an outdoor
the little
arena.
golden book
It's going to be in a field.
discussion ready, but I thought of it for some reason.
I was very
So
excited to hear that DC is starting to roll out what sounds like some of their November announcements. Writer Alex Segura talked about how he's doing a question ongoing series, the Renee Montoya question, where she's going to be investigating some sort of murder mystery on the JLA Watchtower.
It's either called Question Along the Watchtower or All Along the Watchtower.
Yeah, one of the two, which is why I didn't say the subtitle. But then the later announcement today was Tate Bromble and Takeshi Miyazawa are going to be doing a Cassandra Cain Batgirl ongoing series,
That's pretty great.
where Cassandra Cain has to team up with her mom, Lady Shiva.
Okay.
I'm excited about that. I think that'll be a good dynamic, and I think it'll be really fun.
Was that her mom?
Eventually, I think it was, yes.
Huh.
Tate Bromble, not my favorite guy. I've not really enjoyed a lot of the stuff he's done, but I think DC picked a good writer in that he's done a lot of YA genre stuff. So I think landing him on a book like this fits pretty well, and I love Takeshi Miyazawa so much.
How much?
So much, Patrick.
We both love him, Dal. We got him
We
to
do.
do a window for us when we first opened.
We
And
do.
to recap that story, when we were planning out our initial 9 windows and 2 doors,
Mhm.
we had 6 windows of local artists
Mhm.
and 3 that we wanted to do fan favorites, our fandom favorites.
Yeah, I mean, you knew enough people in the Chicago art scene where we could kind of talk to people and be like, hi, we don't have a lot of money, but we'd love to have you do this. What can we work out? And they were very grateful. They're very gracious in working with us and doing something like that. Guys like Mike Norton, Chris Burnham,
Scotty Young.
Art
Greg
Balthazar,
Titus, Tim
so on
Sealer.
and so forth. A lot of really great people
Sealy.
who've gone on to do amazing things. And then we, again, had some room where we're like, let's...
Well, we had room left over because we planned to do 6 windows,
Mhm.
and the other 3 were going to be that projector.
Oh, right, yeah.
So once we found out the projector was not cost effective and not
Or feasible.
space
Anyway.
effective,
Uh-huh.
we're like, all right, we got 3 windows left. Who do you want?
Mhm.
And we wanted Chris Girusso,
Mhm.
Kerry Kalin,
Mhm.
and Takeshi Miyazawa.
Yeah.
And the funnest part of reaching out to Takeshi Miyazawa, who lived in Japan at the time and probably still does, I don't know, but his website specifically said he was not doing commissions. And I never know if hiring someone to do art for a purpose is different than a commission.
Sure.
But I still blindly reach out to him because we're both huge fans.
Huge fans.
Both own pages of Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane.
Mhm.
And I laid out what we were doing and why we were doing it and that we wanted to do a window. And he responded pretty quickly with, oh yeah, I heard you talking about challengers on the Craigcast. I'm in.
Yay!
It was like, oh, wow. I didn't have to hard sell him.
Yeah, that was great.
Carrie Kalin.
I
who
believe
did
that particular print is still up in Sidekicks.
that particular print.
The window print.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, that and Art Balthazar and Chris G. Right?
You don't remember all of them.
I don't either, but yeah, definitely.
I know I've seen that.
Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane. Yeah. Yeah, that was super fun. Oh, right. Batgirl. I'm like, why are we talking about Takeshi Miyazawa? Because we like him. Who recently did a run on She-Hulk?
Yeah, he was a great fill-in artist in She-Hulk. He had a variant for a reprint of Ultimate Spider-Man 6, I think. That, I think, a little bit harkened back to his Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane first issue.
Nice. So him doing a Batgirl series is a plus for us.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's another DC superhero series where I not only am excited about it as a fan, but I think it's got a ton of potential.
It's a very Challengers book, if I may describe a thing that way.
Sure. The Batgirl Cassandra Cain characters had a huge renaissance through Kelly Thompson's fantastic Birds of Prey book. And I think a lot of people who weren't around for the original stuff would snap up a Batgirl book, and then there's people who...
directly before that, she was...
in Batgirl,
yeah.
Sure. But that was a co-lead thing with Stephanie Brown.
Yeah.
This is a Cassandra Cain Batgirl book. It's very exciting. I'm very excited about it.
And just yesterday, they had announced Tom King and Ryan Sook doing a... How many issues was it?
6 issues.
Just six-issue Black Canary series, all about what makes Black Canary as great as she is.
Yeah, it's a Black Canary fight thing where I think she's fighting Lady Shiva in that too. And it sounds like it's going to be... The pitch sounds very like action-focused and like a training regimen for Black Canary with all the best superhero fighters in the DC universe.
Like Robin, Tim Drake had to do in Robin 3.
Right, but it's a Tom King book, so I can't imagine it's going to be that. I feel like there's definitely going to be a layer of that, and then a layer of like, hey, let's do some poetry. What's some poetry that we can put in here?
Let's deconstruct Dinah.
There's some song lyrics. We'll see. The Ryan Sook part of it makes me a little nervous because
let's forget, she's also a teen pop star, rock and roll star in the DC universe.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be canonical with the Trinity backups for Wonder Woman, where she is basically the DCU Taylor Swift. I don't know if that's going to be true. I really hope it is, though. That would make me real happy.
Well, the whole Annie Wu Black Canary book where she was
a
touring musician.
Yep.
I say Annie Wu, but she wasn't the main artist on it, but she did.
It's been a while.
Definitely covers.
It's been a while. It's a new 52 book, I think, right?
So those are a couple of DC upcoming announcements, but I think that nicely dovetails into how do you think, and I know we're only 2 months into it, how do you think the From the Ashes era, even though I painstakingly point out it's not an era, is doing?
I think it's doing about what we expected in most ways. X-Men and Uncanny X-Men did really well. X-Men 2, I think, is selling solidly. X-Factor sold faster than I thought it was going to. We're getting a restock, which is great. But other books, not really catching on. I think X-Force did well. But NYX and Phoenix, I don't think really performed for us. I think they did okay, but not great. And for the first month where people are kind of trying out everything, to not be able to get a lot of traction on those is not a great indicator for months 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, especially since we both really enjoyed NYX.
Yeah, it's got my pick on it. I picked it. I picked it off the shelf and said, that's my pick. And that's hard for me to say because I don't like Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing on almost everything they do. But I thought NYX was really solid. I wish the art were a little better, which is my complaint for most Marvel books these days. But I thought the approach they had was really strong, and I thought the vibe on it was really good. It just, people were not that interested, and I kind of get it. It's a hangout book, and those are kind of a tough sell, unless you're a super huge fan of a lot of the characters. And that's the thing that sunk a bunch of different Young Mutant books over the last few years, is they don't really have a mission statement like an X-Force or an X-Men. It's just, hey, it's a bunch of young characters hanging out and living their lives, and what's that like? And I just feel like that's not enough of a hook for most superhero readers. there's a contingent of people that are going to be into it, who want that kind of YA low stakes approach, but it never seems like a Marvel audience clicks into it. Runaways is basically that. And as much as I love Runaways, that book was always struggling for readers.
Yeah.
Always.
The later it went into run, for sure.
Yeah. No matter who was writing it or what TV show promotion it was drafting off of, it never seemed like it clicked.
Do you stay current with Amazing Spider-Man?
I do.
Did you read this week's?
Yes, I loved it.
I did too.
I loved it.
And I'm hearing backlash about it online.
Insane.
It's a Peter Parker date issue.
Yeah. I don't think Spider-Man's even in it.
He is. It starts with him swinging
for like
through
a
the city,
page or two.
talking about. Did you know there's a new Stiltman?
Seems like he's always fighting.
Like it's 2 pages of that, but the rest of it is just Peter Parker, and I think those issues are necessary and also
absolutely
fun.
And also like the pacing and dialogue on it is a really solid issue because the crux of it is Peter Parker's trying to date this girl, and she's like, "Look, you're never around.
You're always late. You're leaving early,
and
you blow me off."
One of the best things about it is that it instantly gets away from the like Peter can't tell her the truth and she hates that he's keeping secrets. Like they leap over that in favor of the okay, clearly there's something you're not telling me, but you can't tell me, and I accept that. Let's talk about the bigger issue of you not putting your own needs on any level of priority, like
which is 100% the defining characteristic of Peter Parker Spider-Man.
Right, and the tension of Peter always takes responsibility for everything else, and that's the core of Spider-Man, and that's what motivates him. But holy shit, is that unhealthy for a grown man to be like, I can never be happy, I always have to sacrifice. And it's like, dude,
that's
you
almost
cannot
as bad
live that
as
way.
A rich person dressing up in leather and beating up homeless people in alleys.
That's to get into the Tom King Batman thing. One of my favorite things about that 80-something issue arc is it literally starts with him as a grown man asking Alfred, like, would my parents be proud of me? Like, the way I've lived my life after they've been gone, would they be proud of me? And how, as an adult, you sometimes think that. Like, you know, especially if you've lost parents, you wonder, like, would they be proud of me?
You definitely think that, especially if you've lost parents.
If you've lost them at an early age. You sometimes wonder, like, would that...
No, I was agreeing with you.
Would that parent be proud of me? But then the end of the book, spoilers for a thing that wrapped up several years ago, is Bruce Wayne learning, who cares? You can't live your life that way of what a person who's not even there might think of you. Don't worry about it. Don't let that define your life.
What about Flashpoint Batman, where Batman got a chance to be not proud of his dad?
Mm-hmm.
And how it works out.
Exactly. So
it's so therapeutic.
So yeah, I do really like that last issue of Amazing, and I thought it was like one of those quintessential Spider-Man comic books. It's like the last issue of Chip Zdarsky's run, or you know, the Kid Who Collected Spider-Man, like that kind of stuff.
It ties into the hangout aspect of a book, which is necessary at times.
Or just stuff that isn't about a strict superhero supervillain conflict. It just drills into that character's psychology. Like this is, in a way, Zeb Wells' version of the Spider-Man is trapped under heavy machinery and has to lift it up to be able to go be there for Aunt May or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's that concept where it's not about huge dynamic fight scenes or whatever. It's just about what is this character's psychology and how can we explore that in 20-something pages.
Which is so very difficult to do with a character that's been around since the early 60s.
Yeah, and even this, like I said, I mean, this fits into a continuum with a bunch of other Spider-Man comics because other writers have explored this over 60 years of Spider-Man comics.
I think that's a heavy drawback to working on a character that's existed for decades, is that once you get the fundamental core of who they are, it's hard to keep telling stories.
Yeah,
I mean, especially with stories where they aren't true to themselves or get into trouble for their beliefs. It's like, didn't you learn anything from what we just taught you?
And this kind of loops back around to the From the Ashes thing, where the biggest problem with it is it feels like I've read these stories before. Like what made the Krakoa stuff work was feeling like you've never read this X-Men comic before.
But simultaneously, every other X-Men comic mattered.
Right. It wasn't a reboot. It was just, what is a new concept, which is way harder to do than a reboot, because a reboot is sort of easy because you could just go, all right, let's reboot Spider-Man. I don't mean like Ultimate Universe. I mean like, let's just reboot it. And you're going to do the Brian Bendis Ultimate Spider-Man stuff. It's just that. He's back in high school. It's going to be like Spider-Man Homecoming. Maybe you add in
There's a kid named Geldof.
a Ned Leeds or whatever. Fine. And then you're just off to the races. And he's going to fight Green Goblin again. He's going to fight Doc Ock again. It's all going to be the classic versions because that's what a reboot is. But like, what kind of hurts the X-Men stuff is, again, it just feels like we're getting those kind of idealized, set in stone versions of these characters instead of feeling fresh or new. NYX arguably is the fresh or new book, and no one wants it. So maybe I'm getting this completely backwards.
Maybe.
And all anyone wants is, Grant Morrison's X-Men, boom, Jed MacKay's X-Men. Or Chris Claremont's X-Men, boom, Gail Simone's X-Men. Like,
Yeah,
that's the
but
stuff they want.
if you look at the launch of From the Ashes versus the launch of all the ancillary House of X, Powers of 10 titles,
Mhm.
those out of the gate had more eyes on them.
Well,
I think.
the thing that was working for them was that for a bunch of them, no one knew what the hell they were. Like, when they showed off Marauders, and it's like, I'm sorry, this book is Emma Frost, Kitty Pryde, Pyro. I can't even remember who else was on the cast.
A pirate ship.
Yeah, and like they're pirates or something. She's dressed up like Adamant. Like, what's going on here?
Is
And-
she friend or foe?
And then you read it and you're like, oh, I get what this is now, and this makes sense. And that excitement is what led a lot of people to pick up all those different books, was because you get to the end of Powers of 10, number 6, and you're like, I literally don't know what's going to happen next. I got to read every book to find out. But with the From the Ashes stuff, you arguably can judge them by their cover. Oh, this is the team where Forge and a bunch of different X-Men characters are in red suits, and they're out there running and gunning because they're X-Force. Got it. Wolverine's in the wilderness. Got it.
Phoenix is in space.
The Uncanny X-Men all have hands. Got it.
That's uncanny.
Yeah, that sense of surprise and mystery, I think, is what's maybe missing, at least for me as a reader and maybe as a retailer, but probably not, because, again, the most straightforward and predictable books are selling great. But the thing it's missing is that sense of surprise of, like, I don't know what this book is, and I gotta find out.
I think what is missing, specifically from the 2019 House of X Powers 10,
Mhm.
is the chatter. People were excited. People wanted to talk about it. People were like, we're buying the books coming back next week, talking about those books.
It's true.
No one's talking about these. And when I say that, I mean within the confines of Challengers.
Right.
People haven't come back to say, hey, here's what I thought of X-Men 1 or Uncanny
Online,
X-Men
I'm
1.
sure someone's talking about something. It's mostly QR codes, but sometimes they're talking about the comic
I'm
books.
always way more interested in what our customers think of the books they get.
Yeah.
And that's not something we get often. We do from specific people regularly, but it's not like I always talk about how we don't have the, I say chatter, the comic chatter, because you and I are focused on what they're getting this week and what we liked and reassuring when
Right.
someone's giving something a try.
The
or,
things they haven't read yet.
Yeah, or pitching, like, oh, you haven't read Power Fantasy, here's Power Fantasy.
Right.
Things like that. But I'm waiting for people to be like, hey, I read Uncanny number 1. They fought a dragon.
Yeah.
I can say that. That's not a spoiler.
No. It was in the preview books and in the preview pages. It's in like the first 6 pages of the book. But the chatter that I usually get from customers when they're volunteering something, beyond me saying, what have you read? What are you liking? Hey, what do you think of this book?
When I say chatter, do you ever think, hey, comic, read,
I
comic.
never do.
Will you now?
No, the chatter that I get from them, the stuff they volunteer is, honestly, it's all pre-order stuff. Like, the stuff that I hear from them is, oh man, sign me up for this, or oh, I'm so excited about this thing that's coming out in a few months.
David saying,
Or did you hear this announcement?
did you hear that the bait and switch they did, what you call it, with Spider-Man and Mary Jane on the cover? What'd you call it, where you think that they're back together?
That is a reference that 3 people in the world are going to get, and 2 of them are talking to each other right now. The thing about the chatter that we want to hear is like the feedback of, what did you, the stuff you brought home last week and read, what did you think? Has 2 flaws in it. One, I think a lot of people just sort of forget, like they read it, but like you said, they're not really retaining it in the sense of like, I can't wait to talk about
there's
this
too much stuff every week.
6 days later, and that's fair. How often are you so excited about a book that 6 days later, you've got to tell people about it? How often does that
I
happen?
cheat and put it on a podcast that I host.
But then the other problem
Not this one.
is semi-related to you and I, where they're probably just super behind on stuff and they haven't read it yet.
Yeah. You know what?
So they're not going to read Uncanny X-Men #1 probably until issue 3 comes out, and then they're going to be like, "Oh, I like this book, but now I have no one to talk to about it because it's 3 months old."
About a year ago, you and I made a concerted effort on Wednesday to talk about comics people had bought or were buying, and it worked for 2 weeks when we kept it up and really made the effort to do it and got people talking about what they bought and really adding the end conversation
Sure.
to our name. But
I literally don't remember doing that.
we did because we talked about it on the podcast.
I'm sure we did.
Yeah.
I'm saying I literally don't remember doing that.
Sure. And it would be up to us to do that again. Like, part of me wants to challenge us to, hey, challengers, to ask everybody on a Wednesday to be like, hey, what's something you read from last week you really liked?
Sure.
But then, when we first open, there's a line of people.
Yeah.
And there's not the time for that.
No.
And you really want to give people a good experience while also keeping the line moving, because not waiting in line forever is part of the good experience.
It's a real good experience, is not feeling like you're just 4 people back waiting for a conversation to end.
Yeah.
The other problem, I think, is not everybody wants to do that. Like,
Fair.
if I was, the way I shop at places, I don't mind a quick 4-second interaction or something, but I don't want to be there like, oh, let me remember. Like, if I walked into Chipotle and they were like, hey, what are you watching on TV lately? It's like, I have been watching stuff. I don't want to have that conversation with you. I just want to get my food.
I think I've used this before, but I hate it when I'm buying groceries, and a lot of times I'll be buying meatless stuff, and the cashier will hold up a product and say, is this any good?
Right.
Which is exactly what I'm pitching we do, but not from the we don't know about it standpoint.
I think that the thing that we should do, the way of kind of tweaking that idea, is just being more cognizant when you're in a conversation with a customer and you're having a discussion about things they're excited about pre-order wise, or stuff that's new that week that you think they're missing out on, or even just casual conversations about other topics. It's a good idea to keep in your brain like, hey, ask them what they've been reading lately that they liked. Because you're already in a conversation. They clearly want to have a discussion.
Sure.
You, as a human being, are capable of steering that a little bit towards like a different topic. Not, if they're telling you that like they've had a death in the family, you don't want to go like, hey, speaking of death in the family, have you been reading the new Batman Robert Liz book? Thoughts?
It's also not even speaking of a death because he didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
It's a balancing act, but we can usually tell if someone wants to talk or someone doesn't want to talk.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't recommend like making it a jumping off point for a ton of people in the store, because I usually like to have a better sense of like, do they want to have a conversation or do they not? And I know that maybe part of our job is like initiating that. People who maybe need to be brought out of their shell a little bit, or need that, you taking the first step to understand like, oh, this is a thing I can do. I'm not intruding, or I'm not, dealing with a stranger. This is somebody who likes the things I like and wants to have that conversation. But yeah, again, I know how I feel when I'm in stores, and I don't ever want to force that. I don't want to make it a situation where I feel like I have to perform for the person whose store I'm in. You know what I mean?
Well, you do have to perform for me, and you're in my store.
That's the thing. Like, I have to perform when I'm at Challengers. That is a performance of a sort. But I don't want people feeling like they have to meet that. You know what I mean?
Sure. You also want people feeling like it is a performance.
Oh, it's a performance.
Yeah, but you don't want people feeling like this. You want them to feel it's genuine.
I don't care.
I had an interaction
it's never
with
genuine.
someone
It's never genuine.
sometime last week, and I was trying to talk about a book that they were buying,
Mm-hmm.
but they said, "Oh, I something in the back of my throat. I'm sorry." They said, "I don't read these right away. I wait and read them on Marvel Unlimited. I just slab all the single copies I buy."
Oh, God.
Yeah. How do you have a conversation about that?
Somebody said this in the store?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I mean, they were physically buying single issue comics.
Look, you buy stuff, you can do whatever you want with it. I can't police how you read or what you read or how much you enjoy it.
But, they're the, whatever the window is
3 months
for Marvel Unlimited. I was also going to say,
it's about 3 months.
And if you're a listener who knows that, you don't need to tell me.
I read Marvel Unlimited usually on my phone on the train when I have nothing else to
Yeah,
read.
but you're not reading 3-month-old books. You're reading It's Jeff or
What was I looking at recently? Oh, Ann Nocenti Daredevil. Been in a discussion with somebody online about that.
Was that out 3 months ago?
So the thing with Marvel Unlimited is that not only do they do the new books 3 months out,
Yeah.
but anything they have to digitize to make like an omnibus or
collection,
epic collection immediately becomes available for Marvel Unlimited because it's the same digital files. So you'll frequently see alongside brand new books and Marvel Unlimited like exclusive books, these weird dumps of like, here's 50 issues of Marvel Age. Oh, they were putting the Marvel Age omnibus together, so now they have that available. So that's the new content for the week, includes all of that.
Do they ever do the Netflix thing of taking things off?
I've never noticed. If they do, I don't think there's ever anything that I know I read that I went back and couldn't find. But I usually, if I've read it, I don't know that I'm going to go back and reread it on Marvel
Fair.
Unlimited. In that way, like I've gone through a bunch of like the Mark Waid Daredevil stuff, but having just reread that, it would be several years before I'd want to read it again.
Yep.
And at that point, I don't know if I'd remember.
And do you read that on the train?
I do.
On your phone or on your iPad?
On my phone, it's not really worth getting my iPad out of my backpack when I'm on the train. So I'm obviously not reading it in the best possible format,
Sure.
but it's all stuff I've read before, and it's just
Yeah,
kind
the
of
best
reminding
possible
myself of
format
it.
is a single issue comic.
Right, that I already read like 10 years ago. And I own in hardcovers and have unwrapped some of.
Think about the passage of time and how
Oh, God, no.
that Mark Waid, Chris Samnee, Daredevil run
Yep.
was so good, but how many iterations of Daredevil ago? Since then,
Charles Soule was right after that.
well, since then, somebody has gone on to write the book who's written the most single issues of Daredevil than anyone ever.
Yeah. Was Zdarsky right after Charles Soule? Or was there somebody after Charles Soule?
I don't remember.
So you got Charles Soule, question mark, Chip Zdarsky, and now the current run.
Saladin Ahmed.
Yeah. So that's, and yeah, wow. But I mean, in the intervening time, like Mark Waid and Chris Samnee did a 12-issue Black Widow run.
Yeah.
And then Chris Samnee went on to do Firepower for like 3-4 years.
29, 30 issues? More than that? I don't know.
A lot.
And of course, Jana.
Yeah, somewhat simultaneously.
Yeah. And now he and Mark Waid are reuniting for Batman and Robin Year One.
Very excited about that. Again, that's just another great DC book that I'm super excited about for the end of this year.
But the point of my Waid Samnee Daredevil, because you remember reading that in single issues when it was coming out in Challengers.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime ago.
It really is. It is fascinating to get to the end of some of those books and see like ads for, or like little blurbs about other books that are coming out simultaneously. And it's like, oh my God, this is a million years ago.
In 2 weeks, Marvel's putting out the Marvel 85th anniversary special.
Wow, as old as Challengers is.
And I, not as someone who does not do Marvel initials, because that's not a thing for us anymore, have no idea what that book is. I have no
Yeah.
concept of that book. To me, it sounds like
Bunch
just
of short stories.
a Marvel Now or Marvel Age 1000 or what have
Yeah,
you.
it is, right? It is a Marvel Age 1000. It's Marvel Comics 1000, Marvel Comics 1001. It's
Yeah.
just like I
But
think,
it's not even like Timeless, which was
no, like
setting things up. This is just,
yeah,
is it just going to be newcomers?
I don't think so. I think it's some bigger names. Like they have said that the success of Marvel Comics 1000 means they're going to do something like that in that same quarter every single year from now on. They'll just, it doesn't matter if the numbers make any sense or connect to anything. Again, Marvel Age 1000. Marvel Age was their advertisement magazine.
Yeah.
It wasn't new content, but they have the name, so it's like, I don't know,
Of
Marvel
which
Age 1000.
I bought them all.
It doesn't mean anything. They wouldn't have been
it
on
was
issue
new
1000.
content, but it wasn't new comic stories.
It was journalism.
Yeah.
But like promotional, it was advertorial, you know?
Yeah. And they got us to buy it when it was just their in-house hype magazine.
Pre-internet, that's how you did stuff.
Sure.
You know, you'd get like Amazing Heroes or
I
Comics
loved
Journal,
Amazing Heroes. Didn't love a Comics Journal.
but the ability to break stories was somewhat limited, you know? So Marvel Age might be where you would find out all of the stuff that's coming out in a few months, or all of the new titles that are coming out, or the first place you'd see certain artists as they showed off tryout pages. That was fun.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And it was also cheap relative to a Marvel comic because it was all advertisements, basically.
Since I just did the invoice breakdown for the week after next, there's it's going to be a favorite week for Dow because there's random annuals random Venom War one-shots.
2 this week.
There is the aforementioned Marvel 85th anniversary book.
Is there also a couple giant-sized books?
You know what? I don't think there's a giant-sized book, but there's... Gosh, I just did this. I just did this, but that was like 8 hours ago I did it.
Sure.
But it's... so the big book for Marvel that week is Aliens vs. Avengers.
Okay, great. Somebody was asking about that. So someone calls up. Yeah, I was wondering if you guys have Aliens vs. Avengers. It hasn't come out yet. Oh, it hasn't? No, it's and I checked online. It's like I think it's like September 11th or September 18th. Okay, is that one? Do you think you're going to have that for the shelf? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely think we're going to have Aliens vs. Avengers #1 for the shelf.
Well, I mean, you say that, but you didn't go that high at all on Black Panther or Predator vs. Black Panther.
I think I went relatively high considering the pre-order numbers.
That's a major consideration when you had that.
It really is. We
2 could be relatively
There
high.
was
compared to
a funny
pre-order.
situation with Molly Jane this week. She was in on Monday as we were dealing with the PRH order for the week, which included all the new Marvel books. And we were going through Wolverine Annual, and Wolverine Annual had, because there's no series to tie it to, because there is no Wolverine series running currently, and also neither the outgoing writer nor the incoming writer worked on this annual. It's basically just a completely separate Wolverine one-shot that's
ties
tying into the
Infinity
larger
Watch.
Infinity thing. We only had 4 subscribers for it.
Okay, sounds right.
I ordered like 16 for the shelf, and Molly Jane, in her very worried, concerned voice, was like, "Do you think we ordered way too many? I mean, we didn't have that many people down for it." I'm like, "Molly, we ordered 20 copies altogether. We sold 50 of the last issue of the last series of Wolverine consistently. Like, these 16 on the shelf will go. People will just see it, not remember that they didn't order it or that overlooked it in the catalog, and buy it right away." And of course, by the end of the day Wednesday, we had like 3 left. I probably under-ordered.
Nah, I think it's fine.
No, I'm not saying that in the sense of like I'm going to go online and order 10 more like I would have for restocking It's Jeff issues. But the idea that like we have 16 copies of this kind of lame-looking Wolverine annual, yeah, because we would normally have sold like 44 of them, and 16 is the consolation of no one really wants this, but here it is.
After that brief window where there was no Wolverine ongoing, because he ended at 50, we now had The Life of Wolverine, one shot.
Which somebody came in asking about the other day, and I'm like, no, we're sold out.
Wolverine Last Cut.
Final cut?
Final cut? Something with a cut.
Oh my god. Cut man.
The annual from this week. Next week is...
Don't forget Bloodhunt Wolverine, a 3-issue miniseries.
Oh yeah, Bloodhunt Wolverine. Next week is Revenge, and then right after that, finally his new series.
Yeah.
So it's not as if there was any...
Oh, there was
lack of
never
Wolverine.
a version of this where Wolverine wouldn't have an ongoing series or enough content in a month to make up for an ongoing series.
As a fan of characters,
What
it
a
is
character.
so much easier for me now to ignore a lot of the side series when it's a major character like a Batman or a Spider-Man or a Wolverine that have tons of miniseries and whatnot.
Sure, I don't think there's enough hours in the day for you to read all of the Batman comics that come out.
But as you and the listeners know, I share my comic collection with my brother George, and recently he expressed his dissatisfaction with the sheer quantity of Batman titles we get. And I said, you don't have to read them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, we immediately canceled Batman and Robin with that statement. But
that's one that I for a while, I'm like, why isn't this selling well? I stopped reading it with this issue. So I don't know. I guess everyone was ahead of the curve on me. The Batman thing is always super interesting because it never really feels like there's an upper limit to what DC can reasonably publish for Batman, either in the sense of like, how many books can you actually construct at an editorial level based on one character and his franchise? But also, these things all sell. They all find somebody to sell to. And there's definitely tiers. You know, Batman and Robin, again, doesn't sell a fifth of what Batman sells. And it doesn't sell a third of what Detective Comics sells. But you get stuff like Gargoyle of Gotham, where we're probably going to get like 60 to 70 copies of the next issue of that whenever it comes out, and they're going to fly off the shelf, assuming anyone who was buying issue 2 of the miniseries is still alive by then.
That's fair.
I can't say for sure. Maybe
No.
their children and their grandchildren will enjoy a copy of the
We
third
found
installment
this-
of Batman Gargoyle
We
of
found
Gotham.
this in our dad's stuff.
Uh-huh.
What is this vintage book? I don't think.
I hope they go back to press in issues 1 and 2 before they FOC number 3, because good lord, it's been a while.
I don't think my brother realizes how many Batman books that are out there that we do not get.
Do you give him any of the Black Label stuff?
Yeah, Gargoyle of Gotham.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
But like you wouldn't, if it's oversized, you're not going to give it to him because it's not going to fit in that little container.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't do City of Madness.
And you like City of Madness.
Yeah, I didn't finish it.
Okay.
Other 3 issues. But hey, speaking of my brother.
Let's.
Hello, this is a brief interlude with not only myself, Patrick, but with
George,
my brother, and we are here to shamelessly shill for the Alzheimer's 5K that we are a part of coming up in September.
September 15th at North Central College in Naperville, Illinois.
We have literally just buried our parents, and we are making this plea now to remind you that we are raising money for Alzheimer's, and you can visit my page at rememberingfrancis.com. That's Francis spelled Frances, rememberingfrancis.com. And you can visit the team page at forfran.com. That's FOURFRAN.com. And George's own page.
Yeah, that's act.alz.org/go-to.
Yeah, just go to
the number
forfran.
4 Fran.
Just go to forfran.com
And you can pick
scroll
me,
down
yeah.
and you can pick George. George, why are we doing this?
We're doing this to raise money for care, for awareness, and to find a cure. Because of the top 6 diseases in the country, this is the only one that has no survivor so far. We are looking for that first survivor.
But it's conceivable in our lifetime.
It could be. Some significant advances were made in the last year, and 2 new drugs came out. There had been, to this point, nothing that could slow the progression, and these have shown some very good progress in that. So it could happen in our lifetime.
And as you know, this is important to us because our mother passed away 4 years ago from this terrible disease. So we've been doing all we can since then. George especially, who's co-chair for this now.
Well, we've done away with the chair people, so I am just on the walk committee.
Oh, I
And
see.
This is since 2019.
What does that mean for your responsibility load? Same.
Same.
Yeah. So anyway, you can help us out by donating at rememberingfrancis.com or forfran.com, and we'd appreciate it.
Yes, very much so. Please, whatever you can give is acceptable. Thank you.
I do want to greatly thank the people who very recently, today even, donated to that very cause. And a day or 2 ago, actress Gina Rowland had passed away from Alzheimer's. And just today, Greg Kinn, of which there will be a little tribute to Greg Kinn at the very end of this podcast with a extremely rare live Serpent Crown recording from 2001.
Who's Greg Kinnan? Was that the Knack?
No, the Greg Kinn Band.
Oh, was it? Is that all it was? He wasn't in
Yeah.
anything else?
No.
Okay.
He did Jeopardy. Jealous, yeah. Our Loves in Jeopardy.
Okay, yeah.
He did the breakup song.
I don't know that one.
He did other hats,
Okay.
hits, and he wore hats.
Probably.
But he
Some point
died
I
from Alzheimer's, and also today I found out about Hollywood Squares host Peter Marshall also just died from Alzheimer's. So
Sorry to hear
it is definitely a going concern.
Comes in 3 sort of situation.
More than that. But anyway, thank you for donating the people that recently did and have done so throughout this campaign. We're about a month away from the event.
September 21st.
Yeah, that's the Chicago one. I'm not entirely sure that's the same date as ours.
You'll have to find out ahead of time.
Yeah.
Maybe you can.
It's in my phone, which I can't look at because it's recording.
Maybe you can go from the Chicago one to the suburban one as part of the route.
It might be
Is that
a
5
week
Ks?
earlier.
Probably more than 5
It's a little more than 5 Ks.
6 Ks.
There's some Ks. Kilos.
Ooh.
We are
Is that how you're raising money to fight Alzheimer's? That feels quasi-legal.
hey, there's a whole organization. I'm not doing anything. I'm doing just facilitating the money gathering. Don't tarnish this beautiful thing we're doing in memory of my mom.
I wouldn't dream
And now
of it.
Dad as well, because we're definitely convinced he had cognitive issues.
Okay.
At the end. Okay, now we'll go into your topic.
I read The Moon is Following Us, the first issue preview from Image Comics. It's the new Daniel Warren Johnson and Riley Rossmo 10-issue fantasy adventure series. It's going to be coming out in about a month. I don't think we've closed our numbers on it, so anyone listening to this, I think, can still get their pre-order in, assuming they're not listening to this in like 2026, in which case, just go buy the graphic novel. It's out now. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Riley Rossmo is a guy that I've seen on a lot of stuff, but I've usually at a distance. He's usually working with somebody else where I'm like not as into it, or it's a property I don't really care a lot about. But when he's the main artist on a Daniel Warren Johnson creator-owned miniseries, I definitely want to check that out. And I thought it delivered. It's real good. It is kind of a weird fantasy realm action adventure. Joe the Barbarian, I think, was one of the references that you'd made that's, I think, really astute. And it's Joe the Barbarian, but also...
I said Napalm Lullaby.
Oh, I wouldn't use Napalm Lullaby. The thing that's great about it
I would for the specific world building that they did.
Yeah,
in the book.
what Patrick's referencing
Not the concept.
is the way that the story is constructed. It really throws you in the deep end. And as the first issue progresses, starts to build out what is going on and why it's going on. But I thought the characters popped immediately for me. I thought the basic kind of cause and effect premise of the first issue, what the two main characters are trying to do and trying to get to, felt very...
Kill God. Oh, wait, no, that's a different book.
Very fleshed out. I thought the art was great. The designs were really fun. It absolutely feels like the sort of book that if you enjoyed things like Murder Falcon and Do a Powerbomb, you will find a lot to enjoy in Dan's writing in The Moon is Following Us. And I think Riley Rossmo's art, this could be like a real spotlight book for him. I think it plays to his strengths incredibly well. And I think people who are maybe not as familiar with his art or haven't read a lot of the stuff that he's worked on are going to see why Dan wanted to work with him on this book.
I know that Riley Rossmo is Daniel Warren Johnson's best friend in the industry.
Okay.
And they've been looking for a project to work on together for a while. I've never been that much of a fan of Riley Rossmo's superhero art.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a long run on Harley Quinn. He did the Tim Drake Robin book recently.
Mm-hmm.
But I like when he does things that are outside of the realm of the real world, which is what this is.
Right.
And also, did you mention that Dan draws part of this as well?
I didn't. I don't know how much they're talking about that in like the ads and stuff.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah,
because everything I've seen is just writer Daniel Warren Johnson.
He's writer artist for this as well. Okay. He does a portion of each book.
Yeah, and a portion that makes narrative sense for why he's drawing it, not Riley. So I read that and I liked it a lot.
Nice.
And I hope people give it a try. Again, if you liked Do a Powerbomb, Murder Falcon, Extremity, all the creator-owned stuff that Dan's worked on, I think it's worth checking out. And again, just on a fun art level, I think Riley's stuff is really good on it. And yeah, without giving too much away, the basic premise is two parents are in a fantasy world and they're trying to save their daughter.
And there's a character named Pigface.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, the character designs are all very cool and unique.
As we are recording this, the monthly Challengers Book Club is meeting. And we often don't talk about our book club. One of the reasons is we don't run it.
Correct. Or go.
Correct. We are in the podcast auditorium, not at the store. And just yesterday, somebody bought the book club book and said, I didn't know you guys had a book club. And I never know if we should be promoting it more because the book club rolled out of Women's Comics Night. Mm-hmm. And Women's Comics Night was started for us back in 2018 when we were trying a whole bunch of new initiatives at the store, like movie nights.
Yeah,
and
just ways to get folks into the store more.
Yeah.
Like little events that we could run that weren't dependent on like getting a creator in or doing a sale or all those usual levers that you can pull as a store. This was about more like community engagement sort of stuff.
And Samantha Challenger ran it for us in the beginning and always had theme months and things that they would do during the meetings. It
Yeah.
wasn't just like a hangout.
Maybe arts and crafts one month. Another month they were playing like video games, like dating video games, and kind of like goofing
Sims.
around with them. And sometimes it might be, a gift exchange for like the holidays,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff.
So that kind of evolved into the book club. But for a while, it felt like it was the Women's Comics Night social group that we didn't want to step on any toes or go out of our way to expand it if they already had their group.
Yeah, it definitely felt like we were hosting like a private party sort of situation.
Yeah, and like the store would be closed for that.
Right.
But now the book club is open to more people, and more people come.
Mhm.
But I still never, like, because we don't run it,
Mhm.
I don't want to feel like I'm stepping on the toes again of the people that do run it.
Right.
And being like, oh, we're getting you a bunch of extra people to come to this thing that I don't know how much of it you consider your private thing.
We've pumped up your attendance is a hard thing to try and navigate.
And I assume that they'd all be fine with it.
Probably.
Molly Jane hosts it, but I don't know that she runs it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think she leads the
I
discussion.
see what you're saying. I don't know who's doing what in that group.
Yeah. So anyway, we do have a book club, and it meets on the third Thursday of the month in Challengers at 6-ish,
Which
6:30-ish.
felt incredibly early this month, but the math does check out. This
Yeah.
is the 15th is the third Thursday of the month.
Yeah.
I was kind of unprepared for it.
This month's book was We Only Find Them When They're Dead. They try to do standalone or first volumes.
Right.
Next month's is my favorite thing is Monsters Volume 1. They usually have the books decided 2 months in advance to give you a good lead time.
Mhm.
They gave an extra month for my favorite thing is Monsters so people could start reading it because it's hefty.
Mhm.
Only we didn't have it in stock for a while.
Correct. We will have some copies back in stock basically by the time you're listening to this. One of the things that we do to entice people to participate in the book club is the book club book for the month is 10% off, both in-store and online. So people who are going to be attending the book club can hopefully save a little money. And if you want to kind of remotely do the book club and just follow the book club books, you can always check those out on the website.
This weekend is Fan Expo.
Fan Expo Chicago, that's correct.
And so far we've had a couple of out-of-town creators either find out about Challengers or stop by Challengers. And it's always such a weird experience because Fan Expo is barely on our radar. We've never set up at it. We don't go. I do regret not going, like, I don't know, one of the first years it was actually Fan Expo because Mike Zeck was there.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't make it work.
Yeah, I definitely think about it. I just, I don't know. It never feels vital enough for me to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah.
Like when we do C2E2, that's an entire day.
And it's a store function.
Right. But like, I don't know that I want to do an entire day for Fan Expo Chicago. Maybe next year.
But we had Jim Zub stop by the store today on his, I don't know, way into the city, I guess? Maybe. We weren't there, but he interacted with Molly and Stella, and I guess he signed a bunch of stuff.
Cool, thanks.
We had
Thanks, Zub.
Guido from our favorite restaurant in Chicago, Club Lago, my favorite restaurant and bar, connect us with an indie comics artist yesterday.
Nice.
Somebody who we actually had work of theirs on the shelf.
Which is great.
And will probably be coming by Monday to check out the store.
Cool.
You never know who's going to pop by when they're in town.
I never
and
do.
it's so we had a family in yesterday who I don't think we ever asked them why they were in Chicago, but as with a lot of out-of-town comic fans, one of their goals is to visit comic stores as they browse the city. And this family said that Challengers was literally the only store in Chicago they had heard of before.
Oh, that's nice.
And they made it a point to come in, and they couldn't remember how they heard of us, but it eventually wound up being...
That same Crankcast episode that Takeshi Mizawa listened
to.
17 years ago.
It wound up being because of our Daniel Warren Johnson cover.
Oh, okay.
Our variant cover.
For Do a Powerbomb #1.
For Do a Powerbomb #1. That's how they
Still
heard
available
of us.
on our website if you don't have a copy.
And they picked one up while they were there, but bought a bunch of stuff. But they're from Omaha, and just had so many good things to say about the store, which is wonderful.
It was a really pleasant experience, and they got some good books too.
Yeah, but it's like to hear that we were the only store in Chicago they had heard of. I'm like, wow, that's
It's nice. There's stores that have Chicago in the name.
that's true. What is that one? Chicago Crackers? Something like that?
I never remember. People always ask, "What is there any other store that's buying? Do you know what other stores have?" Why would I know?
Yeah.
Why would I know that?
To use my frequent grocery store comparison, if a store is out of like Lewis's Hawaiian bread, nobody would go up to somebody and say, "Do you know another grocery store that carries this?"
Hi, Jewel. Do you know if Mariana's has this? What?
What I've taken to making my answer is, I'm sorry, I don't know. This is the only store I work at.
Yeah, I usually just kind of chuckle and say, I honestly don't go to that many other shops in the last 16 years.
Even before that, you didn't.
No.
Only on vacation.
Correct. I will be sure to check in Sarasota the next time I'm there to see if they have the book you're asking about.
And speaking of vacation, hopefully this was an hour-long vacation from your life. Thanks for spending it with us. Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
I hate it when I start the second to last sentence with the word thanks, knowing the last sentence is also thanks. Too many thanking.
No thanks.
Perfect.
And now I'm staring at the bodies as they dance across the floor. And then the band slow the tempo and the music gets you down. It was the same old song from Marathon. They don't run like that anymore. They just don't run like that anymore. We've been living together for a million years. And now it feels so strange out of the atmosphere. And then the jukebox plays a song I used to know. And now I'm staring at the bodies of the kids so slow. We don't run like that anymore.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.